every era, nations move toward conflict through stories that feel certain in the moment. Stories carried by official statements, dramatic images, and the urgency of crisis. When time passes, documents surface, testimonies shift, and the distance between the public narrative and the historical record becomes visible. This film is a slow descent into 7 moments where national storytelling shaped the path to war. Moments where the narrative was clear, but the truth was far more complicated, and where the machinery behind these stories kept turning long after the headlines faded.
In the early 2000s, warnings about weapons of mass destruction dominated global attention. Charts, briefings, and urgent speeches painted a picture of imminent danger. Yet international inspectors kept reporting gaps, inconsistencies, and missing evidence. When the war began, no such weapons were found. Later investigations showed how fragmented intelligence, misinterpretations, and political pressure shaped the narrative that justified the conflict. The war unfolded, and its consequences stretched far beyond the story that started it. In the summer of 1964, reports of an attack on American ships in the Gulf of Tonkin spread quickly. Within days, the incident became the legal foundation for a massive military escalation. Years later, declassified documents and independent reviews showed that the second reported attack was disputed, unclear, or never confirmed. The Pentagon Papers exposed the widening gap between official statements and the realities on the ground. A conflict sparked by an ambiguous event grew into one of the longest and most devastating wars of the century. In February 1898, the world changed. An explosion aboard a battleship in Havana Harbor ignited a wave of outrage. Newspapers made dramatic claims, pointing to sabotage without evidence. This was the era of yellow journalism. The narrative was built on speculation. Remember the Maine became a rallying cry for a nation hungry for justice. But the truth was complex. Later investigations suggested an internal accident, not an attack, may have been the cause. But the narrative had already taken hold. War followed, reshaping borders and shifting global power forever. The Maine remains a reminder of how easily the path to conflict can be paved with unverified stories. Once again, a powerful story moved faster than the underlying facts. On the eve of the Gulf War, the world's attention turned to a young girl named Naira. Her emotional testimony before the U.S. Congress reached millions. She spoke of horrific atrocities, and her account spread rapidly, profoundly influencing public sentiment and global media coverage. The story became a rallying cry for intervention. However, later inquiries revealed a shocking truth. The testimony had been meticulously coordinated by a public relations firm. It was discovered that the witness was actually the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador, having undisclosed connections to officials abroad. The invasion of Kuwait was a stark reality. But the narrative used to amplify outrage raised lasting questions about how information is presented during a crisis. Operation Desert Storm began, yet the debates about truth, persuasion, and the power of wartime narratives continue to this day. In the mid-19th century, a clash in a disputed border region changed the map of North America forever. It was framed as an attack on American soil, an event in the disputed territory that ignited a firestorm in Washington. This specific framing provided the political momentum needed to launch a full-scale war, rallying a nation behind a singular cause. When the conflict finally ended, vast territories changed hands, reshaping the map of North America and setting the stage for future expansion. Yet, historical records show that the border dispute was far more complex than the simplified American blood on American soil narrative of the time. But the simplified version was the one that shaped public opinion and ultimately the course of history. After the attacks of September 11th, the initial mission focused on dismantling the network responsible. But as months passed, objectives expanded, strategies shifted, and the conflict evolved into a long-term military presence. Years later, the figure at the center of the original mission was found and killed in another country, yet the war continued. Reports from international organizations documented the rising human and financial costs. The narrative that began the conflict changed, but the conflict itself endured. A nationwide campaign against narcotics was announced with promises of safety and order. Decades later, statements from individuals close to the administration raised questions about deeper political motivations. Independent studies showed how enforcement patterns disproportionately affected certain communities. A policy framed as a fight against substances became a force that shaped social, legal, and political realities for generations. The narrative was simple. The impact was not. 7 wars, 7 narratives, 7 moments when a story guided a nation toward conflict. Some of these stories were later corrected. Some remain debated. Some still echo in public memory. But one truth persists. The machinery that creates these narratives never stops. And the question that remains is not about the past, but about the next story that will shape the future.
You be the judge. If you're awake, you already know what to do. Support the movement. Show where you stand. Your voice matters. Your choice shapes what comes next.